A very good morning and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I'm loving the chat already. I think there's so much positivity already. A glorious morning, said somebody earlier. We're talking about the Warriors-Mavs game from last night. A lot going on. We got a lot to talk about on today's Thursday show. Before we do, let's take a look at the recap screen. Not our best work. 3 wins, 4 losses. Certainly not a winning day. Good job, prop stars. Hitting that Andrew Wiggins play, and I believe he said to take that under 15.5 as well. That one cashed as well. Larry 1 for 2. Martin Green 1 for 2. The problem was our SportsLine picks ended up going 0 for 2. That brings us to 3 and 4. Ladies and gentlemen, let's improve upon a losing day with 3 winners plus me. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We got Danny Brasco. We got Mikey B. We got Mike McClure. A lot of Mike and Mike action this week, gentlemen. But Brasco, I do want to start with you. You killed it in the NFL this year, but if you're here today and NFL season is over, I trust that means there's something UFC related this weekend.
Yes, yeah, I guess we'll kick things off right away in the Octagon. There's a UFC fight night going on this weekend. Not the sexiest event, really. There's going to be 8 straight weeks of UFC, so volume is the game right now. Not all of them are going to have marquee fighters in the main event, but still, nonetheless, like I always say, if 2 people are punching each other in the face, I want to bet on it.
I absolutely love it. Mike McClure, talk to me about, let's not go to your pick quite yet, but we've got the Genesis Invitational. It's obviously at Torrey Pines where the Farmers was. Can I just ask you, I mean, everybody kind of always wants to get into the mind and the model of Mike McClure. How did you, when you knew this was at Torrey Pines, it's a different course, how did you approach this week? I mean, did you look at it like, okay, it might be a slightly different setup than a few weeks ago with the Farmers? What was your initial plan of attack?
Yeah, it was looking, obviously the course change is big for this event. It's an elevated event. You always have to consider that, but just looking at weather conditions as well, I think it's going to play extremely, extremely long. So I've really emphasized not only off the tee and just what we would call quote unquote bombers, but really looking at some of the better long iron players. Still going to be focused on POA grass in terms of putting. But yeah, a lot of names that, frankly, we've used a little bit already this season, again, because of similar profiling, are right back in play for me again this week.
Yeah, you kind of ran down a list of things that I think are important too. We're going to get to a couple golf bets later in the show. Mikey B, talk to me about the NBA. You've got before you give out the picks, is it a big slate, a small slate? Did you have to dig deep? What happened this morning?
It's a scary slate. It's the last day before the All-Star break. Think about when you were in school, it's the last day before Christmas break where you're going to get 2 weeks off. Everybody who has any kind of an injury is not playing today. And to complicate matters, every team that's in action today also played yesterday. So it's the second game of back-to-back sets for everybody. Be very careful.
That is very interesting. All right, let's get started with the picks. We're going to go right back to golf. Mike McClure, you have a pick on one of my 3 outrights. And I'll just remind everybody who my outrights are. It was Rory McIlroy at plus 700, is Ludwig Aubert at plus 2,500. That's now down to plus 2,200 in most places. And then it was also Robert McIntyre at 45 to 1. On the outside looking in, if I could have added another one, and I could have, it probably would have been Shane Lowry. I'm just throwing that out there. But talk to me, Mike McClure, about a pick you have for round 1.
Yeah, I got to say, I love Ludwig and I love Rory. I'm going to look to back Rory here. I didn't quite get to Rory on the outright this week. I played him in DFS. It's very close on the outright, but I ultimately stayed off there. I'm going to back him, though, in round 1. You can play round scores here. Going to go under 71.5. This is a par 72, meaning we need a round of -1 or better from Rory to cash this ticket. And you might look at this and think -1, that's easy for Rory. You have to understand this is a really, really tough test of golf here this morning in round 1. It will be all weekend, but particularly here, it's going to play difficult. So a -1 round, while that's probably not going to be a first round leader for Rory, is still going to be a very respectable round. I think that he's capable of shooting 3 to 4 under today, which would probably challenge for that first round leader. But when I look at Rory, the guy is absolutely dialed in. I like where his mental game is right now as well. I think he's really focused on himself, and he's had a lot of distractions over the last few years on tour and in his life. But I love the way that he's playing right now, and I love the setup for him here. We talked already, Sia, about how distance is going to be important. That's what I'm looking at. I also, in round one, kind of like that he's starting on the back nine, 10, 11, 12. While it is a very difficult stretch, if he's able to just manage those first 3 holes, he gets a nice par 5 after that, a little easier back nine, or for him, it'd be the front 9 coming in. I think that sets up well for this particular prop where we're simply hunting a -1 round. Also want to mention Rory just has been dominating on the South course here, leads this field in strokes gained, and has led this field in strokes gained on the POA surface putting, which has been pretty impressive for him. So I think all systems go for Rory. I think he wins several events this year, but I love him here for a -1 round.
Yeah, this is part of the reason I had Rory at +700. I mean, and by the way, I have him as a first-round leader. My outrights are also first-round leaders. For my first-round leaders, I threw in a 4th name, Taylor Pendrith, a guy who I don't think can win this tournament, but can certainly pop for a couple rounds, including the first. But yeah, I don't like taking a +700 guy, especially in a sport with as much variance as golf, and especially when the name of that person is not Scotty Scheffler. But in this one, I only chose 3 names ultimately, so my card was limited, partly because I was choosing a guy at +700. But yeah, Roy's playing well. He's such a good course fit. I mean, everything you said, he's certainly checking all the boxes. At the end of the day, this is golf, so you never know. But I like this play, and I'm hoping it comes in because, again, Rory is one of my 4 first-round leaders. Danny Brasco, we move to you and UFC next. I noticed Gipper's picks, who is, of course, a UFC savant just like you. He says, I have a banger 2-piece in UFC. Well, that's a nice segue because I don't know if you'd call it a 2-piece, but you certainly have 2 bets in the UFC. What are they?
Yeah, I'll hit you with the 1-2. We'll go jab cross on them. Shout out to my guy Gippers, always dropping great UFC picks in here in the Early Edge chat and in the SportsLine Discord, where lots of great combat talk is had. And we got 2 picks for you guys today. There's not that much betting value on this UFC Fight Night card, Cannonier versus Rodriguez, but I'll have to attack the only pick'em fight of the night. And I'm going with the veteran, Angela Overkill Hill at -108 here. I think the last fight result is giving us a good price tag here. Hill lost to ranked strawweight Tabitha Ricci, very, very skilled opponent, no shame in that loss. And her opponent, Ketlin Souza, got a big upset victory. Hurt her opponent, Yasmin Yergui, pretty highly touted prospect, and then choked her out. So all of a sudden we get Hill, the grizzled veteran, 40 years old, but fights like a 25-year-old. Incredible work rate and pace and cardio. She can just drown you late in that 3rd round. I think she's going to give the veterans lesson to Ketlin Souza, who's certainly dangerous. She's got good boxing, clearly has some jiu-jitsu as well, but Hill's seen it all, man. If she gets that Muay Thai plum clinch around the neck, she can do nasty work inside with the dirty boxing and the knees. I think she just shows her experience out here. Hill's been in 5 split decisions. The over 2.5 rounds is over -500. So odds makers certainly think it's going to go to distance. And if it's a close one, Hill knows how to win close ones. She's been in enough of them, right? So give me Angela Hill -108. And another one here is a spot to find some betting value. I'm taking Edmund Shabazian. Good luck to see you on the recap screen. Let's do it with him here phonetically. Shabazian. Shout out to Shabazz Palaces, too. Anyone in the chat who knows that obscure abstract rapper, we just became best friends. But Shabazian, -380 favorite here. I'm going to take him by knockout to get it down to +135. Much better value. Shabazian's a guy that came into the UFC with a ton of hype, really highly touted kickboxing prospect that came up around Ronda Rousey and her camp, trained with them since he was just 18 years old. And he got rushed a bit quick. I mean, he traded wins and losses, and immediately they gave him some ranked middleweights. He got finished 3 times in a row. He's 2-5 in his last 7, so it's been a rough go. But he's an extremely talented striker. They've finally given him a guy that's nowhere near his level. And if he can stay off the mat, I think he puts damage on Dylan Pudka. Look out for a head kick. Shabazian's got nasty power in his kicks. I think he puts him away. +135 is a great way to find some betting value for Edmund Shabazian.
All right. And it looked like, if I was scrolling correctly, it looked like Gipper's picks. I certainly liked your plays as well, Danny. We have a couple of golf questions that I want to handle. So yesterday, and this is going to be on the recap screen too, my pick from yesterday. And don't forget, this tournament doesn't start for another 2 hours. GAWD, the noted soccer hater, he says, I don't have the 2-ball matchup, which I gave out yesterday. That one you can only find on DK, and I should have explained that yesterday. It's under 3-ball matchups, but the 3-ball itself is everywhere, including BetMGM. He said, would you play the 3-ball Berger over Novak and Knapp? Of course, my play yesterday was Berger over Novak at, I believe, minus 125. I would. At plus 145, I would take this because I think some people might think Jake Knapp is a decent course fit because he's certainly a long hitter, and he's actually playing kind of well. With that said, I think he could make a mess of it today. So I think Berger at plus 145 over those two is certainly somewhere I would lean. So GAWD, I do like that. M squared, Robert asks, any tennis today?
No tennis for me today. I know there is a tournament, obviously, on American soil, but I have not been following any of the tennis there. It is a big golf and NASCAR weekend here, Sia. We've got the Daytona 500 this weekend, the two duels tonight. I've got a lot of content up over on SportsLine for that, but will not be playing any tennis this week.
I was just going to say, it reminds me, and I haven't looked at NASCAR in quite some time, but Mike, it reminds me, I used to go on the SportsLine app to look at your NASCAR outrights and your betting plays. But more importantly, because I like DFS so much, I would look at your DFS plays because on SportsLine, for those of you that don't know, you think it's just a pick site. No. It's model plays, but it's simulations, DFS plays. Mike will actually have his FanDuel favorite plays in DFS across all sports, but I'm talking about NASCAR right now, and his DraftKings plays. And you can go in there and just kind of pick and choose what you want and make a couple of NASCAR lineups. I got to say, NASCAR can be frustrating because there's car crashes and stuff. It's actually really fun, especially at low stakes. Have a couple of $3 lineups and have some fun. You never know what that can turn into. I turned a $3 lineup into $750 like, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago. Don't get me wrong, but those things can happen. Brasco, go ahead.
I was going to say, my buddy has family members that come from a racing lineage. So he's big into NASCAR. He gave me some tips one day. I bet on 3-4 fighters, sprinkled the board, top 10, top finish, car crash. All of them lose. I was done with NASCAR.
It's frustrating. You got to be on the right side of that variance. There was a question about Lucas Glover over Ricky Fowler, minus 120. I don't have a strong take, Vincent, on that one, but I will say I would lean your way to Glover. Fowler does pop here and there, he's just hard to predict, but I'm all aboard the fading Ricky Fowler train. I do think Lucas Glover is going to keep it in the fairway, and that should be a good starting point for him in winning that matchup. So I think it's a good look, not an official play for me. Official play for SportsLine, though. Maryland at Nebraska, Jason Laconforo. We're going over 147.5. Again, Maryland at Nebraska, over 147.5 at minus 110. That is our SportsLine play. Speaking of SportsLine, you want SportsLine for free, and for some reason you're not a member of SportsLine, or you're not a member of or signed up for BetMGM, well, good news. Sign up now and you'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, plus a 1-year free subscription to SportsLine with bonus code SportsLine1500. Get exclusive members only picks for all major sports from proven models and 40+ Vegas experts, plus predictive tools for pick'em, brackets, player stats, and more. Get this offer in 4 easy steps. Download the BetMGM Sports app and register an account using bonus code SportsLine1500. Make your first deposit at least $10. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Claim your free 1-year subscription to SportsLine in your BetMGM inbox. That's a mouthful, but that is such a great deal. Ladies and gentlemen, we got more to cover, including a lot of NBA. Mikey B, you've been super silent. That's on me. We got to get to your NBA picks. We got to get to an extra golf pick for me. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
We dig it. Do you? The Pro Volleyball Federation on CBS Sports Network.
We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. So there's a poll in the chat, courtesy of Ben, of course, and it's the poll says, have you ever bet on NASCAR before? And it looks like so far over 50% of the field has bet on NASCAR. I don't know if that could be interpreted in the DFS realm as well. But Mike, can I ask you something? You said it was going to be an intensive NASCAR weekend. For those that are members of SportsLine, again, if you're not, I just read you a promo, or you just go to sportsline.com/join, type in the promo code winners, you get 60% off the annual plan. Play that back. Slow it down. It's a very good deal. Mike, the NASCAR content, Daytona 500, when can people expect some of that content to pour in on SportsLine?
It's already up now in terms of the original projected leaderboard. I just sent in leaderboards for the 2 dual races tonight that will officially set the field. And then we'll have more throughout the weekend. I would say can be frustrating to bet at super speedways like this. It is the closest thing to a random number generator, which makes it fun for DFS though. So in DFS at a super speedway like Daytona, where you're talking limited laps, the passing differential points matter a lot. We will typically be leaving $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 or more in salary on the table.
Wow.
And just creating a lot of unique lineups that way. So it is definitely a unique situation, but if you jump into NASCAR, don't get discouraged by betting at a super speedway. It is a lot more stable and predictable when you get to some of the intermediate and short tracks.
Very interesting. I think we all know what passing differential points are. And if you don't, good news, it doesn't matter. Just follow Mike. I feel like buckets right now. Just follow Mike's advice. If you don't know what the terminology means, that's what everybody should do. All right. Maybe you want to follow my advice. I got another round one matchup. Shane Lowry -115 over Tom Kim. Again, this one is only over at DK. I think the Shane Lowry 3-ball, if memory serves, was doable in terms of a lean. But again, if you're going to take a 3-ball between the Shane Lowry one that's offered everywhere, including BetMGM, or the one that GAWD brought up, which of course is the Daniel Berger one, I would actually lean the Daniel Berger way, which includes Novak and Jake Knapp. But I do like Lowry over Tom Kim, and I know a lot of people have access to this bet as well. -115 is a good price. Listen, I was on Tom Kim last week. I think Tom Kim is solid, but I just don't think he's a great course fit, especially when you start bringing elements in. That really is, I wouldn't say it's Shane Lowry's expertise, but certainly when you look at tough wind conditions and precipitation and things of that nature, Shane Lowry does rate out well. But I think more importantly, I think he's a better course fit than Tom Kim. And when you look at his metrics, he's been really, really consistent with the ball striking. The short game is usually there. I honestly think, as much as I like Tom Kim, he's a good ball striker and all of those things, I think this should be closer to -125, -130. And I think we're getting a really good deal at -115. So give me Shane Lowry -115 over Tom Kim. And again, don't forget about the bet I gave out yesterday, which was Daniel Berger -125 over Andrew Novak. Mike, did I ask you already? You mentioned when you gave your Rory take that Rory isn't on your outright card. Can you give us a couple of players you do have on your outright card? Because this thing hasn't started yet.
Yes, it's not a huge outright card, but I have Fleetwood again. Cannot quit him. Rasmus Højgaard right back there as well. Long shot of the week for me again. Gary Woodland. I love Gary Woodland right now. I think that I'll read you a little bit that I've got on Woodland. I'm playing him top 20s. Got him in DFS. Really all of that. But when I look at Woodland here in this particular field, Sia, he is first in driving distance in this field over the last 24 rounds, hitting longer than Rory. What I like about that is how wet it is and how these conditions are going to play. He's going to have the length, but not only that, just off the tee, strokes gained fifth in approach. The only question mark on Gary Woodland right now has been the putter. If he gets even average putting, we're not talking about a guy that's going to contend for a top 20. We're talking about a guy that could be in the top 5 of this leaderboard with the big names. So for me, Gary Woodland, 120-1. That's my bigger long shot that I really like this week.
Yeah, and for those of you that watch this show every day, you know I gave out Gary Woodland on Monday to top 30. So knowing that Mike thinks he has a shot to win this thing, and again, you know, he's a long shot for a reason, I absolutely love that. And you know, I think my thought process certainly mirrors Mike in that regard. Mikey B, we haven't heard from you in a little while. We've been talking so much golf and UFC. Sorry about that. But now it's time for some NBA that we can bet on tonight. You said to be careful. So we're not going to the sides. We're going to the player props. What you got?
Yeah, I think the perfect parallel for tonight in the NBA. You remember like when the teacher used to wheel in the TV with the VCR?
Yes.
Because they were completely checked out the day before a long break. That's what tonight is. So be careful. We're going to do 2 player props from the same game. We're going to go to the Kings and Pelican game. We're going to take DeMar DeRozan over 6.5 rebounds and assists at -132. DeRozan, yes, is a veteran. Yes, he played yesterday. DeRozan very rarely sits. So that's why I feel comfortable playing this one. Now, it's been 6 games since the Kings traded away De'Aaron Fox. DeRozan had at least 10 combined rebounds and assists. Again, we only need 7 here. He had at least 10 combined rebounds and assists in 5 of those 6 games. 2 of those came against the Pelicans where he had 10 each, so we love that there. Without a traditional point guard on the Kings roster, DeRozan should receive added opportunities to dish out assists here. What we like, Pelicans have allowed the 3rd most rebounds and the 5th most assists per game in the league. So we're going to go over 6.5 rebounds and assists for DeMar DeRozan. And then we're going to take Eves Missy over 16.5 points and rebounds. Why? Zion Williamson is going to probably sit this out. Second game of a back-to-back set. He has not played both halves of a back-to-back set this season, so we like that. Even with Williamson in the fold Wednesday, Misi had 8 points and 9 rebounds against the Kings. He did play the Kings earlier this season without Zion. He had 7 points and 11 rebounds in that game. Both these teams here rank inside the top 13 in the league in pace of play. So up-tempo game, no Zion Williamson in all likelihood. We like Misi over 16.5 points and rebounds.
All right, we got DeRozan and Misi. Brasco, before we get to the recap screen, was there anything in the chat UFC related or otherwise you needed to address?
Nothing pertinent right now, but be sure to be in the SportsLine Discord because we're always firing away props that we like, angles, live odds. Gippers and I always chopping it up, so be sure to look out for him and I as well. I had a question for Mikey B, if I may. I used to dabble in the NBA maybe 4 years ago, when I was brave enough to bet it, and I used to bet totals on the back-to-back situation. Are you looking at overs with everyone's legs being tired and no defense being played, or unders with everyone's legs being tired and no shots falling?
Yeah, as of right now in the day, I'm not betting any totals, sides, nothing, because I think we could see out of the 5 starters, we could see teams rest 4 of them because I think tonight's going to be pretty bad, especially since a lot of the teams that are in action have a lot of veterans. So keeping that, depending on who is going to play, I don't know. It really depends on who's going to play, Danny. So this is terrible to say this. I'm wheeling out the VCR. I don't have a good answer for that, to be honest with you. It really depends on the players at this point.
NBA is so speculative, man.
Especially
who's going to play.
Especially at 10:22 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things you have to wait. You don't always have to wait, but because you can get the better of the line early sometimes, but sometimes you just have to wait. Let's see. Jeff Stenberg. Real men bet overs, Danny, says Jeff Stenberg. Noted under hater, Jeff Stenberg. There was one question before we get to the recap screen. I do want to address it. How do I feel, or maybe you were asking Mike. Well, I can ask him. We can just both answer it. Shane Lowry over Jason Day. It would be a lean to Lowry. I don't really have a strong opinion on Jason Day personally, which is why I would lean to Lowry. Mike, do you have a call one way or the other here?
I lean Shane Lowry pretty comfortably without seeing the price point on it. I just see the 2 names.
Yeah.
I have Lowry in the top 10, the leaderboard. I have Jason Day 21st. So 9th versus 21st. Probably would support it all the way up to like minus 130, minus 125-ish.
Yeah. Okay. That makes me feel a lot better about my Shane Lowry pick and me saying, hey, the 4th guy on my card outside looking in was Shane Lowry. Maybe I'll add him to my card. Before we go to the recap screen, Darian says, Kipper's pick says, well, real men and women bet unders. Darian Mercurio says, Sia, can I get a first round leader from you and Mike? So you might have joined the show late. I'll just say it again, Darian. Thanks for joining the show. Hit the like button. I've got my 3 outrights are also my 3 first round leaders, which is Rory, Ludwig, and Robert McIntyre. But I did throw in an extra first round leader. So it's those 3 and Taylor Pendrith are my first round leaders. Again, Shane Lowry would be in consideration on the outside looking in. Mike, I know you don't do first round leaders, but is there anybody that comes to mind?
I can't ignore the value on Rory personally. Only just mentioning that because you can find a first round leader around plus 1,400, plus 1,500 on Rory versus the plus 700, 750 for the full tournament versus other guys that I like Rasmus Højgaard. You can find first round leader plus 3,500, win the tournament plus 4,000. So just whenever you get some reverse odds like that, it makes sense why it's that way, but it's a lot better price point on Rory to lead after the round 1 than it is to win the event.
Yeah, Rory plus 1,400, I think, is the universal price on his first round leader play. There was also Steve Folkerts. If you want some soccer plays, he has some soccer plays in the chat. We'll have soccer plays tomorrow, of course, on BPE Friday. Let's see. Liddy says, I'm late here, but what did I miss? Well, you missed everything, but good news. We've got the podcast you can refer to, or you can just go back and listen to this YouTube show and watch it. What a great show it has been. Let's take a look at the recap screen before we get everybody out of here. Genesis Invitational round 1 picks. I'm carrying over one from yesterday, of course. Daniel Berger minus 125 over Andrew Novak. Lean to his 3-ball as well. Shane Lowry minus 115 over Tom Kim. Again, this tournament doesn't start for another 2 hours. Rory McIlroy, we're sticking to golf. Round 1 under 71.5 at minus 105. That's from Mike McClure. Hope that comes true because Rory is one of my 4 first round leaders. UFC Fight Night, we got Angela Hill minus 108. And here we go. Edmund Shabazian by KO plus 135. How did I do, Brasco?
Nice.
All right, I got 4 nices. DeMar DeRozan over 6.5 rebounds and assists, minus 132 from Mikey B. And Yves Missy, I don't know that I got that first name right, over 16.5 points in rebounds at minus 128. I should have just gone last name there because I knew the last name. Maryland at Nebraska over 147.5 points at minus 110. That's from our friend JLC over at SportsLine. Again, over 147.5. What a show. This is a great show, mostly thanks to all of you in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow to run it back. So everybody be in here, bring your friends, bring your bets, and bring your questions. Brad Moore says, good luck, y'all. Have a great day. That's really good advice. Brad Morris, thank you very much. KC3 says the same. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great Thursday. Let's cash some bets. Let's stay positive regardless. On behalf of Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, Danny Brasco. Of course, Mike McClure and Mikey B. I'm the counselor of cash. This is the Early Edge. Don't forget, have a great day. We rest our case.